Both the Commonwealth and National Australia banks are lifting their card rates, and many other finance providers are following suit. Customers are invited to miss a monthly payment after Christmas, and many apparently take that option. But this time, the earthquake has meant more people are finding making up that payment quite difficult. Lifeline is where an increasing number of them are turning.
Our first endeavour is to help people stay out of bankruptcy, to budget, to contact those companies, to explain their financial situation, extend the loans or renegotiate the original contract.
The National Australia Bank says this year is no different. Regional Manager Ray Volker urges people to plan better, resist impulse buying and avoid overspending.
I believe that education in finance should start at school. We don't do nearly enough of it, and often the first time a person really comes to grips with the hard, cold facts of finance is when they come in and want to borrow money to get themselves out of a problem.
Lifeline itself has been appealing for help for many years, and this time it seems the government has come to the party.
We've had an offer from the federal government of some funding that will enable us to employ a full-time coordinator and training for more financial counsellors.
The extent of the downpour became obvious with creeks rapidly swelling. A number of major roads were temporarily cut, including the old Maitland Road where a truck became bogged. The Cessnock to Curry Road as well as Maitland roads were also closed off. Cessnock Council is patrolling the valley's roads and is urging motorists to stay off them where possible. At its height in Hexham, a woman being transported to hospital became delayed when the ambulance she was travelling in crashed into the back of a car on Maitland Road. In Abermain, Cessnock rescue workers battled flash floods, the worst seen in the area for 13 years. At least 2 houses were flooded when rising waters rushed through. By 3 o'clock this afternoon, however, the floods had dropped as quickly as they'd risen, leaving just a soggy mess to be cleaned up. For rescue workers now, a long, anxious night lies ahead with more rains expected. Willie Lafitte for NBN News.
A National Trust classification wields no legal power, nor does it provide financial help for repairs and maintenance. But according to Executive Director Wendy McCarthy, it's a useful and independent tool to protect threatened historic buildings.
But it will help people defend their patch of territory, if that's what they want to do. And that's the support service we can offer.
46 Newcastle buildings have been included on the Trust's post-earthquake register. Among them, the Coal River Chambers in Watt Street, the former Carlton Hotel on Scott Street, and most of the blocks surrounding the Frederick Ash building. But it's the York and North wings of Royal Newcastle Hospital that are proving to be the most controversial inclusion.
The North wing clearly is repairable and you can do something with it. It can be reused. The York wing probably not so much, and Wheeler House seems to us to be eminently reusable in terms of safety. So we would say that hasten very slowly before we demolish.
The National Trust's engineer agrees the complex's lift tower needs to be demolished. After inspecting the site today, he offered a cautious endorsement of the work now underway.
I think they're doing a conscientious job. I don't want to criticise them for what they're doing because their primary ambition is to make them safe. There are other ways of doing it that would be a little slower probably. Certain damage occurs to the surrounding parts of the building in any demolition, and a bit of that has happened on the north wing, and that's a pity, but it can be fixed.
It was destined to be an unforgettable night. A royal guest, a star-studded lineup of performers and the future of an earthquake-ravaged city were all the ingredients to ensure last night's relief concert was a sellout success. Organised shortly after the December 28th quake, support for the concert was little short of astounding. Performers like Olivia Newton-John, Billy Connolly and Peter Allen dropped prior engagements to be there, and they did all in their power last night to ensure the capacity crowd wasn't disappointed. But as well as a night of comedy and song, it was also a night of recognition, with the presentation of the newly created New South Wales Meritorious Unit Service Awards. To recognise the heroic efforts of hundreds during the earthquake, the awards were presented by Prince Edward.
The Cessnock Volunteer Rescue Association.
The evening in all raised more than $500,000 for Newcastle, the significance of which was probably best described in the moving finale from Olivia Newton-John.
Those $5 million will have to come from both the state and federal government as well as private contributors. Chairperson of the Hunter Valley Parliamentary Task Force, Virginia Chadwick, says the money will mainly go towards Throsby Creek's major problem of water management, with dredging its priority. Pollution will also be in the Throsby Creek environmental limelight, its focus highlighting the next 2 years. The Throsby Creek Task Force will consist of local residents, the Hunter Water Board, state government and other representatives. Newcastle Deputy Lord Mayor Doyne Lanham will head the Throsby Cleanup Group, which will meet again in March.
This was the prospect facing enrolling students at Tighes Hill Technical College today, a 2-hour wait in what seemed to be a never-ending queue. Staff say it's been chaotic all day as they struggle to contend with new administrative procedures. Students could only stand in line patiently until their turn came to part with their fees.
I don't know, it's the first time I've ever had to wait this long for anything. I don't know, I can't see the start of the line.
This is the first time this is operating like this. Next year it'll be better. We've just got to give them a chance to get the system running.
It's been here for half an hour easy. It's way too long. Should have 2 lines or something.
And with enrolments continuing tomorrow, there could be more of the same. Leslie Robinson, NBN News. Senator Haynes held court in Beaumont Street, hearing the grievances of frustrated traders weary of delays in getting financial aid. Although the state government dished out its first relief loans today to earthquake-affected businesses, these people say they're yet to see any money.
We haven't got any direct answers. We would like some positive results, and I just really think that all the politicians are getting argumentative and bickering with each other.
The Beaumont Street traders claim they need help now, not low-interest loans, but immediate short-term grants to tide them over while insurance questions are settled.
They are not in a position to consider paying 6% loans. It's impossible. What they need is an immediate grant.
If Beaumont Street knows how much will get it over short term, then they should be turning to the federal government. We have a $9 billion surplus. If Newcastle can't get $1 billion of that,
because we're not talking about...
An angry Senator Haynes condemned the federal government for not responding immediately to the needs of the Beaumont Street traders. But she balked at any suggestion of electioneering on earthquake issues.
I don't know whether we can win on this election or not. My immediate concern is that federal parliament is sitting again on the 20th of February. There won't be an election for a while, and these people don't need and have no right to be made to wait until an election promise comes along in April or May.
But when that election does come along, Senator Haynes is confident the Democrats can repeat recent electoral successes in Thomastown, Kew and South Australia. Newcastle paramedic Malcolm Martin has been chosen as a key player in the party's bid for lower house seats. At his campaign launch today, he and Senator Haynes predicted a three-way contest as the Democrats move beyond the protest vote.
Labor has been devastated in Victoria and the Liberal Party is licking its wounds as well. So if that sort of feeling about the uselessness of the two parties translates into federal politics, then there's no doubt that Newcastle is a winnable seat for the Democrats, as is Kingston.
Council trialled two-way radios at New Lambton swimming pool late last year and quickly adopted the system. Pool inspectors said the radios gave them instant contact and were invaluable in emergencies. Now the radios will be trialled on Newcastle beaches. Beach inspectors at 6 beaches from Stockton to Merewether will be given two-way radio, providing them ideally with direct communications over almost 10 kilometres of sand and headland. Pools and beach officer Frank Wheeler says the radios would save valuable time in a crisis.
They'll help in as much that the staff won't have to run to a telephone. It'll mean that they'll have 1 second's notice from one beach to the next regarding sharks or help for an emergency rescue.
If the trials are successful and Council approves purchase of the two-ways, the system could be introduced to our beaches before the end of this season. About 50 miners gathered at Singleton Council chambers to meet the Premier before he left on the next leg of his tour. The Premier took the protest head-on, saying he could only give the miners a minute of his time. It turned out to be longer. The miners, many carrying retrenchment notices handed out today, wanted the Premier to use his influence to encourage other mines to employ them as they were progressively retrenched from the Hebden mine over the next 12 months. The Premier stopped short of agreeing, but sounded sympathetic.
I'm perfectly happy to see if there's any pressure I can bring to see that the jobs that are here to stay with the fellas. I've got no argument with that at all.
The Premier departed, leaving mining unions feeling that more could have been achieved.
Partially satisfied. He seems to keep wanting to harp on the fact that we've agreed that Elcom has done the right thing. I don't believe Elcom has totally done the right thing, because I think there should have been some promise of jobs for these guys that are going to be able to work, 200 odd families. I don't really believe he has addressed that problem. He's trying to sidetrack it.
Mine management says it doesn't know the winning contract price tendered by the Narama Group. However, it's thought the tender was attractive because the Narama mines, which include Drayton, Bayswater and Howick, were offering export quality coal with which Hebden couldn't compete. When Hebden completes its contract in 12 months, it's unlikely the coal reserves there will be touched for at least 10 years. The company hopes some of its 200 employees will be absorbed by the coal industry's current boom, while others will find work with the Narama mines when they take over the Elcom contract in 3 years. The Premier's visit wasn't all confrontation. His first duty was a visit to Singleton High School, where he officially opened the school's computer complex. He expressed admiration for the school's fundraising efforts to equip the $150,000 computer centre through public donations and company sponsorship. The school's efforts were rewarded by the Department of Education, which recognises Singleton High as a centre for excellence in computer studies.
The four-man team of John Pine, Stu Robertson, debut boy Peter Garrett and John Brown dominated the Americans in the first test, winning 40 points to 32. And it's hard to see them being beaten in the second clash. John Pine, who recently won the Australian Super Sedan title in brilliant fashion, believes that the boys from the US of A, John Pearson, Aaron Miller, Mike Klein and Chuck Wardell, are competitive.
If they get their act together and race as a team, they'll be very strong. If they sort of race with each other, well, I think that us as a team, as the Newcastle four cars, like Robertson and Garrett, myself and John Brown, we race as a team, not an individual. We'll beat them every time.
The Americans have not won a three-test series in Newcastle for the past 5 years, and the local lads are keen to keep the status quo.
Love to win it 2-0, you know, like our ambition is to clean sweep them, and that's what we're here for, is good racing and to win.
The Italian marble statue was first erected outside Newcastle Post Office in 1916, and despite attacks by vandals which resulted in his rifle being replaced by a fiberglass replica, the unknown soldier has withstood the test of time. Onlookers watching him being bundled onto a truck, then seeing the stone pediment dismantled, feared that the monument was being moved forever, perhaps to Civic Park. But council officers were most anxious to calm public misapprehension. The statue is only being cleaned. The base will be replaced, while the marble drinking fountains will once again provide water to the thirsty populace. Naturally, the work will be completed in time for Anzac Day.
There's growing disquiet over the administration of earthquake relief, as a confused public grapples with a maze of arrangements. There's the Disaster Relief Committee, the Lord Mayor's Appeal Fund, small business low-interest loans, together with hopes of small business grants. The Prime Minister came face to face with the problem yesterday. Everywhere he turned, there was a shopkeeper or resident complaining of delays in getting money. But Mr Hawke was quick to deflect blame from the federal government, laying the responsibility instead with state and local authorities.
But all I know is that the people do seem to feel that there is a gap between the decision that's been made to make the finance available, and we've done at our level all that we can do. I hope that the actual processes of delivery can be accelerated.
I would reject any criticism that the Disaster Welfare Committee has in any way contributed to that delay.
But yet the claims persist. People are saying they're not getting the money.
Well, what people are saying they're not giving the money, because at the moment we only have 200 or odd outstanding claims.
Today, Virginia Chadwick took exception to the Prime Minister's comment, defending state relief arrangements.
And it's not just state versus Commonwealth in some sort of cheap political shot. What the Prime Minister implied yesterday, I think, is an insult to the hard-working officers of Council, my department and the builders of this city.
Independent member for Newcastle George Keegan went further, accusing the Prime Minister of promoting half-truths in a bid to win electoral support. But while the politicians quibble, the needs of earthquake victims remain. The Lord Mayor's appeal fund is now creeping towards $4 million. Many express surprise when they hear not a single dollar has yet been allocated from this fund. But the Lord Mayor himself defends the delay.
It's not as quick as we would want, but we are assured by Family and Community Services that the immediate needs of the people are being met. Now, if you know people who are not in that way, or anyone else knows about them, we would want to know about them.
An urgent summit meeting will be held in an attempt to prevent a repeat of these scenes. Lake Macquarie residents are growing weary of recurrent floods. After dealing with scores of complaints from aggrieved homeowners, Member for Wallsend John Mills has called for state and local government cooperation.
It's a problem that has to be addressed partly by council, and since water boards also have drainage responsibilities, then the water board and other perhaps state government instrumentalities like Public Works also need to be involved. I think we need a concerted effort to look at all the problems around Lake Macquarie and change some priorities. Maybe we have to put up with a few more potholes in our roads to relieve the distress that's being now caused every year to people who live along creeks in some parts of Lake Macquarie.
Lake Macquarie Council backs the summit plan, with Mayor Ivan Welsh calling for community input to present to the March meeting. Until then, Council has placed a hold on all new development.
What was decided last night was to stop all development, all subdivisions and all planning approvals until such time as the summit's been held.
Do you see this as a radical step?
Well, you look at last week's flooding and tell me whether it's radical or not. I think it's something that had to be done, and we've got to look at these things much more closely.
value in some sort of manual control here. Of course, and the trouble with that is